The Book of Jonah from the Holy Bible. Now the word of the Lord came to Jonah, son of Amittai, saying, Arise, go to Nineveh, the great city, and preach against it, because their wickedness has come up before me. However, Jonah got up to flee to Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. He went down to Joppa and found a ship going to Tarshish. He paid the fare and went down into it to go with them to Tarshish from the Lord's presence. Then the Lord hurled a violent wind on the sea, and such a violent storm arose on the sea that the ship threatened to break apart. The sailors were afraid, and each cried out to his God. They threw the ship's cargo into the sea to lighten the load. Meanwhile, Jonah had gone down to the lowest part of the vessel and had stretched out and fallen into a deep sleep. The captain approached Jonah and said, What are you doing sound asleep? Get up! Call on your God. Perhaps your God will be concerned about us so that we will not perish. The sailors said to each other, Come, let us cast lots. Then we will know who is to blame for this trouble we are in. So they cast lots, and the lot singled out Jonah. Then they said to him, Tell us who is to blame for this trouble we are in. What is your occupation, and where do you come from? What is your country, and what people are you from? He answered them, I am a Hebrew. I worship the Lord God of the heavens, who made the sea and the dry land. Then the men became even more afraid, and they said to Jonah, How could you do this? For the men knew that he was fleeing from the presence of the Lord, because he had told them. So they said to him, What should we do to you, that the sea may become calm for us? For the sea was becoming increasingly stormy. He said to them, Pick me up and throw me into the sea. Then the sea will become calm for you, for I know that because of me this violent storm has come upon you. However, the men rowed desperately to return to land, but they could not, for the sea was raging against them more and more. Then they called on the Lord and said, We earnestly pray, O Lord, do not let us perish because of this man's life, and do not charge us with innocent blood, for you, O Lord, have done just as you have pleased. So they picked up Jonah, threw him into the sea, and the sea stopped its raging. Then the men feared the Lord greatly, and they offered a sacrifice to the Lord and made vows. And the Lord appointed a great fish to swallow Jonah. And Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. Then Jonah prayed to the Lord his God from the belly of the fish. And he said, I called out of my distress to the Lord, and he answered me. I cried for help from the depth of Sheol. You heard my voice. As my life was fading away, I remembered the Lord, and my prayer came to you, into your holy temple. Those who cling to worthless idols forsake faithful love. But as for me, I will sacrifice to you with a voice of thanksgiving. I will fulfill what I have vowed. Salvation is from the Lord. Then the Lord commanded the fish, and it vomited Jonah up onto dry land. Now the word of the Lord came to Jonah a second time, saying, Arise, go to Nineveh, the great city, and proclaim to it the message which I am going to tell you. So Jonah arose, obeyed the word of the Lord, and went to Nineveh. Now Nineveh was an extremely large city. It took 3 days to walk through it. Then Jonah began by going a day's journey into the city, proclaiming, Yet 40 days, and Nineveh will be overthrown. Then the people of Nineveh believed in God. A fast was proclaimed, and all of them, from the greatest to the least, put on sackcloth. When word reached the king of Nineveh, he arose from his throne, took off his royal robe, put on sackcloth, and sat in the ashes. He issued a proclamation, and it said, In Nineveh, by the decree of the king and his nobles, do not let man, beast, herd, or flock taste anything at all. They must not eat or drink water. Furthermore, both man and beast must be covered with sackcloth, and everyone must call out to God earnestly, that each may turn from his evil ways and from the violence which is in his hands. Who knows? God may turn and relent and withdraw his burning anger, so that we will not perish. When God saw their actions, that they turned from their evil ways, then God relented from the disaster which he had declared he would bring upon them, and he did not do it. But Jonah was greatly displeased, and he became angry. He prayed to the Lord and said, Please, Lord, was not this what I said while I was still in my own country? That is why I fled toward Tarshish in the first place, for I knew that you are a merciful and compassionate God, slow to anger and abundant in loving kindness, and one who relents from sending disaster. Therefore, now, O Lord, please take my life from me, for it is better for me to die than to live. The Lord said, Do you have good reason to be angry? Then Jonah went out from the city and sat east of the city. There he made a shelter for himself and sat under it in the shade until he could see what would happen in the city. So the Lord God appointed a plant, and it grew up over Jonah to provide shade over his head, to deliver him from his discomfort. And Jonah was extremely happy about the plant. But God appointed a worm when dawn came the next day, and it attacked the plant, and it withered. When the sun came up, God appointed a scorching east wind, and the sun beat down on Jonah's head so that he became faint and begged with all his soul to die, saying, "Death is better to me than life." Then God said to Jonah, "Do you have good reason to be angry about the plant?" And he said, "Yes, I have good reason to be angry. I am angry enough to die." Then the Lord said, "You had compassion on the plant for which you did not work and which you did not cause to grow, which came up overnight and perished overnight. Should I not have compassion on Nineveh, the great city in which there are more than 120,000 people who do not know the difference between their right and their left hand, as well as many animals?"